Dear professors, staffs, and students from all over Europe, a very warm welcome to the first expert talk of this academic year. My name is Sofia. I'm currently on third semester here at VIA Film and Transmedia in Denmark. And tonight I'm going to be hosting this event. Today's talk will explore the fascinating role of AI in fashion and AI in fashion film. And we will offer you a deeper understanding of how this technology works in the present and also in the future. In just a moment, you will meet the talented Anja Gaede, who will present her insights and her expertise on these subjects. Following Anja's presentation, we will do a Q&A session. And in this Q&A session, those of you here in the room, just feel free to raise your hands if you have any questions. And for those of you behind the screens, you can just ask your questions in the chat, and then we will ensure that they are addressed as well. And with that, I just want to say welcome to you, Anja.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the stage. Thank you, FilmEU, for inviting me here today. I will be talking about AI in fashion and AI in fashion film today, implications and future perspectives. But before I go into the topic of today, I wanted to introduce a little bit about my background, what it is that I do. I, on a daily basis, run Spot Trends in Business, which looks into these 4 different areas: trend forecasting, consumer behavior, AI, media technologies, and sustainable material innovation. And all these 3 interact with each other, and I deliver product development for lifestyle customers in Denmark, Europe, and around the world. Also customer analysis, keynote speaking like I'm doing here today, and also doing some creative production, taking into trend space, curation, putting that into order. Editing and writing is also something that I do, and I'll come back to this with this anthology we've just published, because I also do board membership and advisory councils. And last but not least, I'm also connected here to VIA Film and Transmedia as associate professor. So a lot goes into the daily day, and I have dug deep into AI in fashion and looking into what that actually means. One of the practicalities that I have done is that I have worked with men designing an AI installation at Heimtextil, which is a big fair for home textiles, where we invited the audience to prompt their own images. And this is almost a year back, where this was really exotic and exciting to do. A lot has already happened into the world of AI, making this already something that we're almost doing, all of us already. But at this point, and this states something about how fast the development is actually going. For this presentation and for my article in the anthology Taking Fashion Film Forward, I have researched heavily deep into various resources. And with such a new topic as AI is, you really need to look into various resources like podcasts and websites, papers, white papers going into industry, marketing material in order to get familiarized with such a new topic. Of course, there are some books that come out in 23 and 24, and I'll at the end also give you a complete list of some of these resources. But for today, it's a little bit about fashion and fashion film, AI in fashion industry, intro, and then some very concrete cases about how this is actually being applicated and how it's used in the fashion industry, or how it can gain value. Ethics in AI next up, and then summary and some QR codes for you to do some downloads, and also a questionnaire later today. First up, I need to talk a little bit about these words, because there is fashion, and then there is film, and then there is fashion film. And these 2 topics of fashion and film are different kind of industries. And when you want to apply AI in it, it comes with a different kind of context when you want to do it in fashion versus when you want to do it in film, and then highlighting I'm talking about fashion film, which is a whole genre in itself that differentiates again from feature films and long films and all that kind of things. It's more of a commercial. It's more into the advertisement. It comes into the whole world of commercials and branded content. But it's really, really an interesting genre, and there's a lot going on in here. And AI in particular is really useful in this fashion film genre because it's primarily short formats. So we have some differences, we have some crossovers, and then we have a whole new genre of fashion film. Without going too deep into this, I just wanted to say something about the film industry versus the fashion industry, because it's really about the different platforms of financing that differentiates how we have to think about the context of fashion and film, and how fashion and film is differentiating. Because everything within the fashion context comes from the marketing budget. So everything when we want to do a fashion film, when we want to fund it, when we want to finance it, it comes from the marketing budget, and that comes from sales, from physical items, from t-shirts, from pants, from dresses, everything that goes into the past role. And then that's the next role and the next marketing budget that we have to use in order to tell the world about the next collection. So that's how the fashion industry works, and that's also how fashion film comes into that. And then AI is going to change a lot of that. It's going to go into the whole value chain of fashion, which I will also come into and talk a little bit about. But AI, yes, we've seen it come up in an extremely fast pace. It's almost like a catch-up effect. It became mainstream for a lot of people in the past years or two. The professional side of AI has worked for it for decades, but with OpenAI and their release of ChatGPT, it really became mainstream. But it's also in some kind of period of disillusionment right now, in order for it to really create value in an industry like fashion. So we're working on trying out all of these features. We're trying to figure out how we can actually gain value and create things in our existing workflows, but it's not completely successful yet. And I use Gartner's cycle here to understand where a new innovation like this is and what kind of phases it goes through. And some of the things with AI is a little bit now in this through of the disillusionment, where we're trying to create value with it. We're trying to figure out how to incorporate it, how to implement it into our industry. And then, of course, some of it will definitely reach these plateau of productivity. Hence, AI is different from, for example, the metaverse, and I'll also come a little bit back into that. We're seeing over time that there is going to go a lot of money into AI currently. The investments are super, super heavy. Just going from 23 to 24, we see a heavy increase in implementing AI across various industries and sectors. So we're really seeing that a lot of money is put into getting to this plateau of productivity within AI. And then we also wanted to give some kind of return on investment now that we're seeing a lot of this investment going into it. So it's really in that peak of where we really want to see it also brings some kind of value, but it's still also a little bit difficult. But no doubt that we have a whole new AI economy. This is just a slide of 120 different kinds of companies that is based on AI or using AI services in order to do a delivery of some kind of AI-based service. So we are seeing a completely new economy with AI. If we're zooming in on both fashion but also other industries, then we'll see that the road to value with AI is paved with data about products or about customers. This is really what is crucial in understanding how you gain value from AI and not just using it to prompt some kind of image or to prompt some kind of element or doing some kind of fun thing with it. Really, in order to monetize return on investment for AI, we really need to have solid data to work with. We need to have our own data, and it needs to be about products or it needs to be about customers when we're talking about the fashion industry. So organizations with high data liquidity, the ability to get the right data at the right time will be the most successful with AI. This is stated by Matt McGlory, Chief Technology Officer from Boomi, in a report done also with MIT. So it's not just about having data, it's also about having the right data and getting the right data to the right place. This is a little bit of a challenge for the fashion industry. We are an industry of physical items, of sweatshirts, of jeans, of dresses that is actually made into physical garments. So they're not digitalized, they're not a data product, they're a physical product. So we are at this point also having a little bit of a barrier getting the full value of AI, but we are getting there. We are digitalizing more and more. These are 2 programs that help us digitalize either design or fabrics, textiles, in order to get some data out of actual physical garments or to work digitally with design or with our textiles. Chloe is one thing, Penelope is another one. You can see the top here is an actual image of a physical garment. The second one, the below one, is the digital version of this. And this is what designers need in order to begin to have a digital track and data track of an actual design and garment within the fashion industry. What is also helping us on the way is that we actually need to do and create digital product passport as part of this whole EU alliance. So in that sense, then when we're forced to kind of create these digital passports, we're also creating data. So the point with AI is to use these data, and to gain more value out of these data, we have to do anyhow to also be able to use it as a data set for applicating AI to a greater sense. So digitalization of the fashion industry is crucial in order to get some more value into creating your own AI maybe maker set that I'll also come back to. Before going into some of these concrete cases, it's also interesting to look at, well, what will happen with the designer? What will happen with the marketing person now that we can begin to look at some of these different things that AI can do? And I'm very much in line with Ian Beecraft from Signal and Cypher, who is talking about the term about creative generalists, that AI will actually amplify our abilities, that we are in the center of this as a creative ones, but the AI can help us amplify in many ways, in many directions, whether it being film or being fashion or being a whole other third industry. These kinds of systems will be able to, where we can access higher degree of knowledge, higher degree of data, higher degrees of all kinds of knowledge that we can then put into service. So this amplification is super interesting, and to think ourselves as these creative generalists. Over time, workers with complex tasks and skills will get the highest efficiency boost with AI. This is also something that goes a little bit against what is the believable right now in AI. A lot of people are talking about how can we just automate a process that is in our industry, or I just want this to be done quicker in a way. And yes, to begin with, a lot of these processes within workers and work tasks, then they will be able to do things maybe automated or in an easier way. But as AI will develop, it's actually going to be the ones with more complex tasks and more complex skills that will actually get the biggest boost out of it, because AI can create and crush and analyze huge amounts of data sets and huge amounts of data. But still, it is super important that we still have the creative skill set, because this principle is something that I'm also very much aligned with. It's a principle in the IT industry about garbage in, garbage out. So we still need to be this creative generalist that can actually put things into the AI and co-work with it, hence going into collective intelligence, which is one of the terms also very much talked about into the AI industry, where we see us as co-creators with AI. We see it as an enabler. We see it as a tool that can help us generate things, accelerate things to a higher and a faster pace. This couch here is a good example of a co-collective intelligence. It is where it was given the task to imagine a couch that was supposed to be able to be formed and shaped as an envelope. So first up, it gave us all of these gray couches all of us know and have, and very big and heavy, that was not able to be folded also as an envelope. But when we began to talk to the AI about this functionality an envelope had, about the folding, about the flatness, then it came up with this one. So this is the principle about working with it, really giving it super creative directions, talking to it, and creating this collective intelligence, being this creative and generalist that can actually be amplified with AI. So that's some basic principles in it. Now I'll go a little bit over and zoom in again on the value chain in fashion. This is just a very simple one about different kinds of elements that are in the value chain of fashion, from trend forecasting at the one end and end of life to the other, with sales and consumerism, media and marketing right in the middle. And AI can amplify all of these steps in the value chain. We are seeing now that systems are coming in, giving us opportunities to either cross data to help us design or to help us do forecasting analysis, as we're seeing over here, or even in end of life in sorting and recycling of textiles. So there are many different kinds of features in AI. But as I begin to talk about, we're still in how are we applying this? Are we making our own AI, or are we using services? And there are two ways, there are both ways in order to be able to get AI started, to use it, and also to start to create value for a fashion and also fashion film industry. So let's have a look at some of these different kinds of possibilities of these different kinds of approaches and applications there are with AI. This comes from McKinsey, a great article in there about generative AI reset, rewiring to turn potential into value, where they're talking about 3 different kinds of approaches and applications of AI. First one is the taker approach, where you're a user of available tools such as services or subscription, where you are seeing that this is something where you use a service, a program, some kind that gives you some kind of AI application. This is also what would be called surface AI digitalization. So you're only like using AI on the very surface of your industry or for your product. You're not going very much in deep creating AI from the bottom and up. It can really be compared to a hybrid car. You're a little bit electrified, but you're not completely. So that's the basic thing. You're not completely AI, but you're using it a little bit to make it more understandable. The second one is the shaper, where an integrator of available models with its own data. So this comes back to this about how to create value with AI is paved with data. So this is where you start to activate your own data, good and cleaned data that you can use, be analytic about, looking for different kinds of patterns to maybe find fraud or to find difficulties in the supply chain. There are many ways that you can use AI to really source through your data. This is also where we're beginning to talk about in-depth AI digitalization, where the Tesla is a good example of that. It's a full, deep digitalization company that goes completely from software to developing of their own AI to a hardware, a car that drives in the street. So that's also a good image of that. The last one is the maker, which is actually these developers of these large language models. So this is where we're talking about OpenAI or Elon Musk's X, or it could be Gemini, it could be all of them who are developing and training their own large language model. So not a lot of companies, or even in the fashion industry or in the film, will be on the maker level, because it really takes a lot of effort to create and generate your own large language models. However, maybe we can get there. I just noticed today that we have actually opened our new supercomputer. Jensen Huang is in Denmark right now, and he's just opened it together with our King Frederick, the new NVIDIA supercomputer. So maybe we are creating a large language model. We'll have to see when we go further on. Now over to some concrete examples of how this is actually being used in the fashion industry, how we maybe have some taker or maker or shaper systems that can be used right now in the fashion and film industry in order to use AI and gain value from it. Trend Hunter is one thing. They have kind of made their own. So they are a little bit shaper, but the product you can buy is a taker one where they do a Trend Hunter GPT. So you can actually product develop via their platform. So you can say, I'm looking to create a new fashion collection, and how could that look if it's inspired by something, something. Again, Giga, garbage in, garbage out, do a good input to the AI, and then you get some great ideas from that. Going over to design, you can see that I down here also have some circles marked with colors, and that goes back to the value chain of where this element makes sense to be used. Resleeve is a program that is actually a shaper tool where it is pre-programmed to work very well in fashion. So it understands fashion even better than other just image generating programs. And it can do so much more than just generate images. This is some of the list that Resleeve can do. And some of these make super sense to a fashion designer, for instance, because these will be some of the tasks a fashion designer will have to do in order to go from design to an actual physical garment. Some of this can be shortened very much down. So you have to imagine, for instance, this sketch I have over here. This can be drawn on a napkin or even a paper toilet roll, and then you can take a picture of it, upload it to Resleeve, and then you can get this picture. So in an instant, in a click, you go from a design idea to having a product, an image, a digitalization of this that you could put on your web shop without having to do samples in a lot of rounds and works. And then you can also say, oh, this button is not the complete right one. Just change the buttons to this creative input. It needs to be pearlescent buttons if that's what you want. So really accelerating the time usage, which is where we are right now with some of these taker systems, that it can reduce the amount a designer uses to design. You can also apply very complex patterns if you want that to your design, and you can do many, many more things. A similar program is called Raspberry AI, which is also about designing within your own works. What this program also has, in addition to that, it actually has a trend forecasting feature. So you can look up, say, hey, what's trending within denim? Then you get an analysis of that, and then you take that picture and says, yes, do a sketch of that, and then you have a sketch, and then you have a work file, and then you can send that to a producer, and then you have gone from trend forecasting to design. So this is, of course, taking these steps that are within fashion design to a much faster pace, and you can also work on your own elements. You own all of the elements that are in there. It's a more secure environment because within fashion, you want to work on your own brand. You want to be brand specific. You want to apply that and not just have that randomized thing that you can do with some of the just generated image elements. A concrete example is Bestseller, who is one of the big fashion companies here in Denmark, who has actually hired an avatar designer that is powered by AI. She's working together in one of the design teams where they're using her to do some designs, where they're using her to do some imagery, where they are working with her together just like any other colleague. So that's also a way of doing design. And maybe you're also thinking about legacy within your design. That's also where you can use AI. So Norma Kamali here has taken and trained, we're down into a kind of a shaper system here, where they have uploaded all of their past collections, all of their archive photos, and have the AI train on this in order to identify the brand DNA. So that coming designers can actually just work with the AI to design and maintain the brand DNA within it. So that's a good example of a shaper system of how to use AI in fashion design. It also comes into, of course, Photoshop or photo shots within fashion, which is a big element. And of course, generating images is a big thing for this. And we've seen we need a lot of travel in order to get that beach for the summer collection. But this can now also be done in an instant. What has been the problem again with some of this to be able to really create value is that it is non-brand specific. And we need it to be brand specific, but of course it opens up to many other options. This was a photo shoot that was actually planned to be done in a regular old-fashioned way of a photographer traveling to Paris, having a bubble blower artist kind of thing to be able to create this image. But it ended up that this bubble artist didn't show up. And then he tried to do it via the AI instead, and then this came up as some of the results. But again, it's not brand specific, but it has endless possibilities and endless creativity that can go into it, and it becomes better and better every day. If we need to look at some of the more brand specific ones when we're looking into marketing and also images, then we are a little bit in between in order to really get the actual styles and the garments into the images and to control that. Here we have a German company called McCain that has used the models and the background and then done some after photoshopping in adding the styles and the specific new collection, and in that way used AI to not go into a field but to just use the AI and then done it in this way. This is a step that is applicable right now, but we're also seeing that more and more can be controlled with some after photoshopping in AI or in also different kinds of imagery programs, and that we can be more and more brand specific, or we can design to what degree we want with controlling some of the images. The image development is also becoming stronger and stronger. This is FilmEU Design Studio, who is a graphic designer who has turned into AI, creating photos for fashion clients. And then to become completely brand specific, this is completely AI generated for Clean Cut Copenhagen together with FilmEU Design Studios. So these garments are actually theirs that they have then done some afterworks in, but not much. It's about getting a right button or a right cut into it. But if you just want a linen navy blue shirt, then that's what you can actually begin to create. So we are coming towards becoming brand specific, which is completely essential to be able to create imageries for the fashion industry and to use AI for that. But this is also Fat Moose that we have, which is also AI generated, and that means you can really be creative with what kind of background. It's just up to your imagination. We also have another one, which is La La Land, which is an AI-generated model agency. So you can create any kind of avatar-ish model that you would like. You can put the clothes on there, and then you're ready for your e-commerce profile and your e-commerce projective into just with a few clicks. And this also gives you the opportunity to be very diverse within how you're explaining and how you're profiling your brand. Of course, this requires digital fashion items, and that goes back to the necessity of digitalizing the fashion industry to have this data track. Another example of designing is Colina Strada, which has taken her past collections and then have the imagery of her past collection and then blended them through the blend function and created new looks out of that. So, and then from those images and those suggestions via AI, created an actual physical collection that was showcased under New York Fashion Week a few seasons back. So that's also a very here and now way to use AI into the design of fashion in the future. And then moving on into, of course, film, which is also a part of the marketing. Now we've designed things. Can we also put them into film? Can we make it move? And yes, this is also something we're seeing that is coming out. If you haven't seen some of the Sora examples, go visit them, have a look at it. We're still waiting for Sora to come out, but what it is showing is super promising, and particularly with something of real human reality, which is crucial in fashion, because we always put the clothes on a human being. We need to have actual movement. We need to have it to look good. And this is where we are looking into the future, that things will become easier and easier in order also to be brand specific and to create those audio visuals for the fashion industry as well. So super promising and will develop over time, and very inspiring to see. You just from a sentence, a text prompt can generate a video like this. There are more things within the film industry. There are several concrete cases of taker systems where you can work with film and generate that and then put your fashion elements in it. Of course, these services can be used for many other things than fashion. But Runway AI is an example, Whatmore is another one, and Pika is a third one, where you can use this service and then generate smaller snippets of film. But also, again, looking into what a fashion needs. It needs very short formats. It's very much for reels and SoMe related content. So that's why, with where AI is, that it makes so much sense in comparison to doing a whole long feature film. I believe that that will also be possible. But for now, it's really a good match because we have these very, very short formats, or doing faster some content, whether it just being something more anonymous, but it will be live photos or live visuals that we see, and that is also possible with AI. Just to also show you a little bit how the development has been from some of the very first things we saw in fashion. Can we do an AI fashion show? And yes, this is a year old. I'll just show you a little bit of a snippet of it, and then take it as where AI and film and fashion were just 1 year ago. Services put together, of course, by a creative. And I have to say, it has nothing to do with Adidas. It is a creative that's imagining a flower collection done for Adidas and then made a film out of it. Oh, I hope you can see the movement has improved dramatically. We have more inspiring designs coming in there. We can still sense some AI in it, but this is just in 1 year. So it's really important to imagine what we can do in just 1 year's time, and where we can take these small snippets, just 30 seconds, generated with AI, but still with that underlying creative idea that is so super important. So this is from design over to image generation to film generation. We're moving on into the value chain of fashion. And we can also go a little bit more towards the consumer side and to see how we can use it there. Quilt AI is a system that can actually interpret the internet, understand sentiment about how consumers are then perceiving your material, about how they are viewing a new collection that comes out. All of you are then marketing material that comes out and then analyze it via AI. Again, when you put something out there digitally, it is data. It is something that we can look into and and use AI to understand that. Another example of that is Brand Heroes, which is something of an influencer agency that works together with influencers that is using AI in the back end of their system to analyze how is this post doing, what are the potential risks, what can be optimized in order to look how something can be perceived even better, or how has it actually been perceived out there through also some of these sentiment analyses. So this can go into many different industries, not only fashion, but it's about understanding how you can put this data that is already out there into work. Another one within the fashion industry is Stitch Fix, which is also toward both marketing, media, but also towards consumer orientation. It's a really good example of how you generate a lot of data from the customer's side about how you understand your customers and how you then apply AI to deliver a more matchmaking correct product to them. So the customers here at Stitch Fix have to take the style quiz to say what it is that they are looking for, what kind of style they like, and then through their AI analysis, they are directed to some of the most applicable products with them. Style Fix is where you have your own stylist and where you get like a package of suggestions for you to update your style. And this is done with a backlaying AI system. So that was also an example of both media, but also consumer oriented. Just to end this with the concrete cases within the fashion industry, AI can also help us get the fashion which is not longer in use, how we can actually give them a second life, or how we can use and get the fibers into a new cycle. So hence helping with circular fashion movement. And that is, of course, via sorting of past textiles to get them sorted into the right kind of composition, whether it's cotton or polyesters, and AI can detect what it is and then help it getting into the right one to get shredded up and then turned into new yarns. So these are two examples of that. So again, another example of how it's looked into the fashion industry. So this was a little bit about some concrete cases of fashion and fashion film. You can see that there are so many things that this can do. It can accelerate, it can descale, it can give us time well spent, or it can give us attention drawing imagery in a click in a second. But it is equally important as to go into AI and get started with it, also to think about this question of how we do this well, because there is also a lot of backsides, there's a lot of biases within some of these large language models that is a continued work to understand better and to go about. I'm really inspired in like an ethical approach to AI from Tristan Harris and Asa Roskin from Your Undivided Attention. They really take this also to the highest level in the US, talking about how will we make sure that we do this well. Because it's actually us to help humans to make sure what it is that we do with AI is also serving humanity well. And I'll get back to that. Because we can do this. We can take a actor, Harry Styles, and we can put him in a Danish brand of clothes. We can take advantage of them, or we can create a fake image of an ice cream that is Anna Wintour. It is possible to do that. But the question is, should we? And of course, I don't think that we should. So we really need to understand that what we do with the AI, even though the possibilities is super big out there, what we do with it reflects both our ethical standards, but also can be infringing with other people's, of course, IPs and copyrights and etc. So it's really important to be your own creative prompter, to be your own creative generalist that is not using in the style of or known references in order to do so, unless you are that person. So you can do a Wes Anderson film if you are Wes Anderson, but not if you're not. Or you can do a Chanel if you are Chanel, but if not, you will have to do your own creativity and use AI as a tool. I want to show you this campaign also, because this is really also a good example of what it is that we can do with AI. Very emotional, but the message about what we do with AI is our responsibility. And it is our choice to prompt what it is that we want, what we want the world to be seen as, what it is that we want to aspire to. The AI is trying to get some human values in there, but it is not smarter than what humans have done through the past decades of information. So it doesn't necessarily equals the truth, what is out there. It's about what we give it and feed it to and what we create with it. We're starting to get a little bit of help within the ethics of AI, but it is not only up to this regulation, and that's not going to be enough to control what everyone else is doing with it. But the EU Act is coming through, focusing on these three elements in order to protect populations for the usage of artificial intelligence. But again, it's up to us. Another good example of this is also the Algorithmic Justice League in the US, which is an NGO working for equality also within the AI realm, and pushing and lobbying these big large language models to look at diversity and to focus on biases. Another thing also with AI, which is something that is very much talked about also, what is the implications of the AI? Is it just free to use, or is there actually a backside to it? Kate Crawford is a great example of digging deep into AI and going behind the scenes. What does this actually cost of energy? What is the implications of it at these huge big data service centers where the AI computers are running? So that's also a good advice from here to also look into that and understand that it does have a cost. There is energy usage to every prompt that we do. Here at VIA, we are also working with artificial intelligence and trying to implement it and trying to work with it within education and trying to get the students to experiment with this and give them some guidelines on how we can actually begin also to put this into educational context and settings. And so that was also just to maybe inspire others out there in order to do some of this. Also within educational backframe, I think this about what Stanford is doing about model transparency. This index score is also something that I would advocate for, to look into how transparent are these different models in what they are being trained on, how it's being trained, and how you can actually understand what kind of material that it is actually using, so that we can get a little bit behind and maybe at that point be more in the front with what it is that we're doing, creating, and on what kinds of systems. I will round up with a bit of a look into what is next up with AI, both in broad, but also, of course, within an effect to what the fashion industry will also look into, but also what all of us will be looking into with fashion. One has to do actually with hardware. Because we're looking into that AI processors are getting way smaller. So we have to think about that from using some kind of AI service that is in some kind of cloud, that our personal computer is going to be powered with AI, using it as a backdrop, as an enabler in our operating systems. And Lisa Su from AMD is a hardware producer also within the realm of AI, is showcasing this at South by Southwest in March this year, about how this AI hardware is getting smaller and smaller, the same as we've seen with computing in general. Apple Intelligence is a good example of that, where we're seeing that this is their way of using AI, enabling it into their product, into their backdrop, into their operating system, where you can faster enable it in whatever you do, so you don't have to have some kind of cloud-based service, but it's right in your email, or it's right where you need it when creating an image, or in any kind of workflows that we are doing. So when AI is coming into our generative workflows, that is when it really becomes into our workflows and really becoming impactful with what it is we're able to do. So a lot of these features are fun things, but it will also really be impactful within workflows. So that's the thing that we're looking into with the future computers and tablets that we are going to purchase will have this AI enabled in them. So have a look at that a little bit more yourself, but be aware of it. We've seen it also with Apple's newest software coming in. Quantum computing is also part of the next step that is going to happen, and this is now within a 10 years frame, but this is something that is really going to change also the game for AI, but also in general. When we're able to crush data to an even higher extent, to even massive amounts that we are not even capable of imagining today, then we're going to be able to hopefully solve bigger problems, more complex problems. We're going to have AI creating for hopefully value within climate changes or even health issues. And we're going to have these huge big two technological titans merging. And that is actually when we're forecasting what will happen with AI. We really need to see what happens when these two technologies meet. And that is the pace of where things can go even faster than we can even imagine today. So this is going to be super interesting, and it's within a 10 years frame. And what we could imagine just 4 years ago without AI is also what we have to forecast when we go into 10 years more, and understanding quantum computing will come up. So to sum up here, AI influences the entire fashion value chain. Ask questions, what is it that you want to solve? Have the user in focus, put your data into usage. Co-intelligence practices, use subjective insight and amplify with AI is what we encourage you to do. The road to AI is paved with data about products and customers, as I was talking about. That's where you really can do these shaper elements and get your own data to work for you. Cross it, find fraud, find all kinds of different patterns that you need to identify. Taker solutions can create value here and now through time reduction and some intertwined workflows. That goes also for film to create faster this short audio visual content that we have the need for within fashion. Digitalization of design and materials and customer data, all these building blocks for doing this more in-depth one that we are looking ahead of to really reach this plateau of productivity and value within fashion or even the film industry. What will it take to do this well? Up to humans, what we use AI for, as I said in this last ethics area, that is super important to serve humanity well with what we do with AI. In the near future, AI becomes part of computer operating systems, and quantum will be the next big tech leap and will be fused with Gen AI, and that's where things really become super interesting from a forecaster's perspective. Here are a lot of my resources list that has gone into some of the research behind this. This is also something that you can see in the anthology, the article, which I'll give you a QR code for to download. So all of this is available already in there. And this is the QR code for the complete download of this anthology. It is free for you to use, where the resource list is in it. My article that contains a lot of the content that I have covered today is written in that one. And we'll really just encourage you to share all of this knowledge. There are 9 articles in total with this one. And that was it from my side. But I think it's time for a Q&A session.
It is. Thank you so much, Anja.
Thank you.
Very exciting. Now is the time where you can feel free to ask any questions you like. I will take the questions online, so just write in the chat if you want to know anything. I already have a couple questions from the audience, but if you have anything, just raise your hand. First of all, Anja, I will start with a very deep question.
Okay.
To set the scene.
Yes.
Do you think AI will take over the creative processes of humans in the future?
It depends on future. For me, you really have to divide that, whether it's near future or it's long future. So long future, yes, I do believe that it will get emotional. I do believe it will reach emotional intelligence. I do believe it can be creative. I think we will be able to do some other things, but I do believe that in AI in the long future, but that's like 40, 50, 2040, 2050, before we have the capability to that. And that is due to what I was talking about here, quantum computing and AI merging together. It is insane amount of data that it can crush and the ability that it can reach higher intelligence. So we are gonna be some slow turtles in this race, yeah. On the short term, no, we still need a lot of creativity. Giga in, garbage out. It is still an untrained AI that we're working with now.
And do you think that AI and human creativity will like exist together in the future of fashion, or will it be more like a tool, like a collaborator? Maybe both, I don't know.
It depends again on what timescale you're looking at.
Yeah.
I do believe that very short term, also looking into just 2 years time, most of the content that we're gonna see online is gonna be AI generated. It's not necessarily gonna be a physical garment that has been produced and then photographed and then put online. So the digitalization process of fashion is just gonna go from here to there in one click. It will also be sustainable for us, because if we're seeing what it is that we want to post on social media, we want the new next thing, and if we're not making that physically, then it's better for the environment and for the climate to actually just do it in a digital world. So in that sense, if we come to have the necessity of producing less fashion, then it's good for us that the digitalization process becomes even stronger.
Yeah. Before, you showed us the videos of how much that happened just during a year with AI. Is it easy for you to see when you scroll on social medias, or is it easy for you to see if anything is AI generated or helped, or how do you?
It becomes so much more difficult, and I am in doubt also in some cases. So it really depends on, but with some of the newest systems, both in Midjourney, also Runway and Resleeve, it's becoming super realistic. So I'm also in doubt sometimes, and that will be worse in the future. So,
but do you think it's, when you're in doubt, should it like, I don't know much about it, so do you think there should be like, their advertisers should say this is AI generated, or is it something that, do you know if it's something they can just use without telling?
With the EU Act, we're going to be obliged to say that this is AI generated. So I think that that's going to be, but how it's actually going to be sanctioned and how it's going to work in the practical world, no one actually knows. But that's the intention behind it, that we have to showcase that this is AI generated, that there is not a personal human behind it. But I think that will also phase out over time with like many other technologies. But I think it's a good start, and I think that it's good. Also maybe to bring value of actual human creation then, of actually this is a real human, there can be something in it. But with past digitalizations, we also talked about this with the letter and with, you know, the phone book versus internet and all kinds of things, and it's still in the low volume, if I have to look at it historically innovative steps.
Cool. Okay, I have another one.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about sustainability. I could imagine also in fashion in general and in the creation of fashion film. And do you think that AI could like contribute to that in some way, to improve the focus on sustainability?
Thank you.
In the future.
Yes, because we don't necessarily need to travel to that beach to do that summer collection shoot and to do the films that we need to do. So that is helping us reduce travel. It helps us reduce sample making, but it's not without a cost. There is energy usage used into it. I'm hoping that some of these AI sources will be powered with more renewable energy sources, but that is not the case right now. So one has to be aware of that. If they're just saying, hey, we're just going to do everything AI and then we're sustainable. That is not the actual truth. There is an impact also to that, but it is less than flying a whole crew to Mallorca to do a fashion shoot, because that has a way higher CO2 impact when you're doing those calculations.
Yeah. I could also imagine that when AI takes over more and more, we need to like maybe have new skills or develop some other skills. What kind of skills do you think we should focus on? And is there maybe something else we should not prioritize anymore?
That's a really good question also, because I don't think we all need to be prompt engineers or really be data engineers or AI language model builders. We need to upscale and understand how to use a lot of these tools. And particularly also within the fashion industry, it's a good example of that. I think it's going to be mostly taker systems. I don't think that a lot of them, because they're just used to doing fashion, so to be practical, it's going to be these taker systems that you just have to learn to use a software program that will then enable you to do things in a faster way via AI. So of course, it's about understanding and experimenting with these systems and reskilling you into that. But both, a lot of analysis also says that cognitive abilities, analytic abilities is still crucial into this new world with AI. As well as the creative. Our imagination is still a powerful tool.
That's nice to know.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the room have any questions? Yeah?
Do you see students who are eager to use AI in their creative processes or in their fashion film products?
Yeah.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. There was a question about if students are eager to use AI in their creative processes within fashion and fashion film. Yes. And I have to say, I am experiencing some skepticality. And it's not like that we're saying just the youth, they are on to every kind of new thing. That is not the case. It is still something that they have to try. And they are also very protective of, their own creativity. So I think there is some kind of hurdle of understanding that your idea can grow and become even bigger, being amplified with using some of these tools, but it's still your idea where we are right now. So I think there is some skepticality, but it's important, I think, to get started and to experiment, really just experiment, engage with some of these systems, see what you can create, and see where it'll take you.
Yeah. Anything else from here? Or if you have anything in the chat. Okay, Anja, I have one for you.
Okay.
You talked about video production for fashion advertisements being entirely AI generated. Do you think that fashion design is in a similar treat of being entirely AI generated?
So the fashion design, the clothes itself, is that what? Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So even the designs of it, that's like really happening right now with some of these programs that we saw, that the shirts, the internet is full of imageries of fashion and clothes. So it really knows a lot about, if you just say, well, I want a blouse with puff sleeves, then it knows how that looks. So it's a matter of these systems digging out and creating and putting things together in new combinations. That's what the DNA of fashion is. It's merely just new combinations. We recycle back to past decades, taking up the 90s or the zeros again, but then reworking them a little bit. And AI is brilliant to doing that. So yeah, the fashion designers, they are skeptical when I talk to them as well, but they can see that they can do a lot of things with it.
Cool. We got one more. Can we link AI to human laziness? Tricky one.
Yeah, that is a tricky one. From my personal experience, no. Personally, for me, it's amplified me. There are many things that I can now do that I wasn't able to do. I can also solve things faster for my clients. I can deliver an image that would take me a month to create before, and now I can just create it and deliver it. So really, for me, it's now about physical imageries, AI-generated images. It's a pole of a combination. But I'm really able to do things that I didn't thought was possible. a lot of people see me as a creative, but I'm not really like a hands-on creative. I'm really an analytic, and I'm one that can, put data down and talk about it and tell people about it. But for me to experience that I can actually create beautiful images is something that is just amplifying me. So that doesn't make me lazy, but
no,
yeah,
it was a very good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more. In regards to the fast fashion industry, how do you see AI impacting this issue?
Yes, of course, when we're accelerating how fast we can do designs, then that is a challenge because we can actually do many more new designs. I am hoping that physical fast fashion will decrease so that we don't produce it and don't use resources of it. But digital fashion may quite as well increase for me, so that we can put digital garments on. You saw the example of the model that is put on that is very realistic, so that we can still do some digital ones. That will be okay. And I think that this whole discussion about fashion, I'm really respectful for human behavior. And if we have seen that there wasn't this need or this eager or this aspiration towards fashion, I'm saying that it is too much, but it's just an innate thing. So we're struggling really psychological motivations by saying that we shouldn't do things, particularly also with the youth about identity creation and stuff like that. But that's a more deep and other talk. It's just to say that there are some elements into psychological aspiration that is super deep, and that's why we haven't seen a bigger of a change, why we haven't seen a stop when we really look into how the brain and the body works.
Cool. Does anyone else have any questions? Then, yeah, in the room.
I'm thinking about the safety of our data. When we, in the design website you showed, have a secrets collection coming out soon and using all those platforms, can we be sure that they store our data safely and it can't be leaked?
You were thinking about Stitch Fix, about the data, the questionnaire. I cannot recall for their data safety security what it is that they are doing, but it is to a large degree anonymized. You don't need your name and you don't need to where you're going. You will of course have your address connected to it if you need to have this shipment of clothes, but it's not, you're not able to identify that that is particularly you who has done these kinds of data. But otherwise that would have to go to Stitch Fix to see what it is that they do. But good question.
Yes. Okay. And yeah, do you believe AI tools can or will be able to actually step out of that position and become computational? Does that make sense?
Not quite.
You can see the question right here. Creative entities by themselves. In other words, can Gen AI be created by itself?
Yeah, I think it rolls back to some of the first questions. And yes, I think at some point it will. Yeah. With the pace that things are going, the combination of quantum computing, it will create an intelligence. And there was a good example that when you have a company, that company is judicially responsible for its own self. So it can be it can be prosecuted if it's not doing well. There is no saying that an artificial intelligence can't be judicial in itself, also when a company can, as well as a person. So it's about expanding our understanding of these things, like what has happened with innovation leaps also before.
Cool. And by using AI, you are making certain jobs obsolete. How do you think this will affect the gap between aspiring fashion designers in their chances to work up the ladder of fashion design?
I think they need to use AI instead of feeling that they're being replaced, right? Again, back to the amplification. And it's also, if we look at examples from the printing, from the digitalization of photography, yes, some jobs are obsolete, but they change into something else. It was also the same with the horse carriage when we got the automobile. We've been into these innovation leaps in history before, and it's the same process. It is accelerating things, it is changing how we're making things and in what pace. I think and hope that it can also give us better things in a faster pace, because we can prototype faster, we can visualize faster, instead of having to wait to see that 3 months, oh, this didn't work, back into the process. So maybe we can come up with even better products. Maybe it can help us do better materials for our fashion that it can actually decompose. I'm hoping the future of fashion designers will go in that direction instead of the solely aesthetical one. Using AI to do that, using it to do well.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. I think it's time for the last questions. If anyone has something that's not been said, or yeah. And in general, pretty good questions over here.
Yes, I was wondering how you would convince a brand to use AI, and how you work with a brand that has no prior experience with AI in their work, but also in their way of making commercials and so on.
Mm-hmm. It's not that difficult, actually, because once you talk about them, that it will generate value and you can do things in a faster pace, then they're on. Because the value chain in fashion is about growth, it's about creating value, monetizing on your products. So when you can talk about them like that, and you can look into the workflows and getting the designers to work in a more efficient, lean way, then they're totally on. They are lacking also, they're a little bit standing like everyone else. It's a little bit standing looking into how do we get to start on this? How do we get to use it? And that's where I think the taker, shaper, and maker process is really, okay, we can start here. If we don't have our deep data to get the AI to work on, maybe that's the point where we can then see that will over time generate more value for us. But a taker can be instantly creating value. A shaper is something of a time slot within half to a whole year before that begins to generate value for a brand or for an industry. So one has to be aware of that.
I think that was the last question for today, Anja.
Yes.
So now we're actually going to say thank you for joining us today. You had lots of great questions. Wow. Very exciting to hear your different perspectives on the subject.
Good questions. That was also nice and reflective.
And last, on behalf of Via Film and Transmedia, we want to thank you, but also all of you behind the screens for joining us today. I want to thank you in the room for your attention during the past, over an hour. And we really look forward to the upcoming expert talks and cineclubs in the nearest future. So we'll see you out there.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
And use the QR code to a questionnaire about what you thought about today.
Yeah, please do that. So we'll just leave it here for now so you can scan it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.